Hilchos Avodah Zarah Perek Tishi'i, Laws of Idol Worship, Chapter 9. Today, the topic is all about our interactions as Jews with those who worship idols. We're going to see in the first 5 halachot, the Rambam is going to deal specifically with laws of doing business with idol worship on the time around the holidays that they observe in celebration of their idols. And then we're going to move to other types of interactions, business that is related not to the holidays but in general, and also other ways that Jews and idol worshippers relate as people. The Rambam, from his phraseology in these laws, makes it clear that they apply even nowadays, in the present time. However, the Rambam himself says that some of these laws only apply to idol worshippers, specifically those who worship Avodah Zarah. And this has led commentaries to explain that since in today's day and age, many of those who serve idols don't do so out of a devoutness to the faith, but rather because minhag avotehem bi'edehem, the custom of their father remained in their hands. In other words, they're just repeating things that they saw by their ancestors, but they don't truly internally believe in those things. Therefore, many of the laws that we're going to learn today do not apply to the Gentiles as we know them, the idol worshippers as we know them today. Let's go and see the Rambam inside. Halacha Aleph. Shlosha yamim lifnei chagam shel ovdei kochavim. 3 days before any holiday celebrated by idol worshippers, asur likach mehem v'limkor lahem davar hamitkayem. It's forbidden to buy from them or sell to them things that last. In other words, non-perishables. It is also forbidden lilvot mehen ulehalvotam, to borrow money from them or to lend them money. And similarly, it's forbidden lipara mehen v'lifroa lahem milveh bishtar o al hamashkon, to be paid by them or to pay them back loans that were recorded in documents or loans that were secured against collateral. Aval milveh al peh, but if it's a loan that was simply recorded verbally, nifra'in mehen, then we can get paid back from them, because it's like saving your property from their hands, since you only have a verbal record of this loan. So if you let it go further, perhaps the non-Jew one day will deny the existence of the loan entirely. So if you have a chance right now to receive payment for this verbal loan, you should take it, and it's okay, even though it's in the time frame close to the holiday. The Talmud gives 2 reasons for these prohibitions in general. Number 1 is that when you create a business opportunity for a not idol worshiper, it will cause him to give thanks to his God, and that's like lifnei iver lo titen michshol, putting a stumbling block before a blind person. And the other reason is more simple, more technical. By giving him money, you're going to leave the goy with more resources to celebrate his holiday and praise his idol again. This raises the question of why it's prohibited to receive payment of a loan from a goy. He's losing money, not gaining. And the commentaries explain because it causes the idol worshiper relief, even if in the moment it costs him money, but in the end, the loan is off his head, and so he can continue calmly and celebrate. Says the Rambam, Umutar limkor lahem davar she'eino mitkayem. It is permitted, though, to sell to the non-Jewish idol worshippers things that do not last. Perishables, kagon yirakot v'tavshil, like vegetables and cooked foods, ad yom chagam, up until the day of their holiday. So the 3-day restriction doesn't apply to perishables. Now, the Rambam, a general caveat. B'ameh dvarim amurim. When does this whole law apply? This whole 3-day restriction? Be'eretz Yisrael is only in the land of Israel, where the idol worshippers, as the commentaries explain, were extremely devout. Aval bishar aratzot, but in other lands where it's not such high-level devotion, eino asur ela yom chagam bilvad. Only the day itself of the holiday is what's forbidden. Says the Rambam, avar v'nasa v'natan yimahen be'otan hashlosha yamim. What if in Israel, where it is forbidden to do business during the 3 days, you transgressed and did business anyway? Harei zeh mutar b'hana'ah. Any money made from these deals is permitted to derive benefit from those monies. But if you do business on the day of the holiday, which is forbidden also, that's an even stricter prohibition, and therefore, any money that you make, you cannot derive benefit from that money. Halacha bet. You cannot send a gift to a non-Jewish idol worshiper on the day of his holiday, because it represents supporting the idol-worshipping beliefs. Unless it is clear to you that this particular non-Jew who you're giving a present doesn't believe in the idol that's being worshipped today and doesn't serve it either. And similarly on the flip side, if a non-Jewish idol worshiper or at least you have to assume he is one. If a non-Jew sends a present to a Jew on the day of his holiday, lo yekablenu mimenu. Ideally, you should not take the gift from him, because that's also supporting the idol worship. But if you worry about animosity being created by the fact that you won't take the present, not lo b'fanav, you can take it in his presence. But you should never derive benefit from it ad sheyivadalo, unless you find out with certainty but that this particular non-Jew sent you the present doesn't serve idols and also does not believe in it. Talmud tells a story that there was a Gentile who brought a present to Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi on a Gentile festival, and Rish Lakish, his student, was sitting there, and Rabbi Yehuda said he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't want to not take it because that'll create negative feelings. So his student suggested a similar thing that the Rambam is saying here: take the gift and then cause it to get lost by accident, in a way where the goy will also assume that it was lost by accident. And in this way, you end up being able to dance on both sides of the fence. However, the Rambam over here doesn't mention that piece of advice, because as the commentaries note, it's much better to go this way of not at all using it, or just completely avoiding it, unless you find out for sure that he wasn't a servant of the idols. Halacha Gimel. Haya edan shalotan ovdei kochavim umazalot yamim harbe. Till now we're talking about a case where the holiday is one day, 3 days before, and the holiday is forbidden. What if the holiday extended for a long period of time? Shlosha, or arba'a, or asara. You have 3 days, 4 days, 10 days. The Talmud makes mention of 2 8-day holidays, called in the Talmud Kalenda and Starnura. It's more popularly known as Saturnalia, which is celebrated right before and after the winter solstice. Talmud says that it was actually made originally with heavenly intent. Adam HaRishon, he was born in Rosh Hashanah. So right after that, the winter time begins, days begin to get shorter. And so as the days got shorter, the Talmud relates, Adam HaRishon said, Olam chashuch ba'adi. The world is getting darker on me. It seems like Hashem is not happy with my service and he's going to destroy the world. So he created 8 days of fasting. And just then the winter solstice came, shortest day of the year, and days began to get longer. So Adam HaRishon said, it seems like Hashem is expressing his happiness with me, and he made 8 days of celebration. And the next year, he celebrated both sets of 8 days. Somehow that became misconstrued by later idol worshippers, and they used those 2 sets of 8 days to serve idols. So here you have an example of things that are longer than 1 day. The Rambam says 3-day holidays, 4-day, 10-day. What do you do in this case? Kol otan hayamim ki yom echad hein. We don't say that there's a primary day of the holiday or a secondary day. All the days of the holiday as it's observed are considered to be that one holiday. And you cannot do business on those days. V'kulan asurin, they're all forbidden. Im shlosha yamim lifnehem, together with 3 days before. Halacha daled, and here in our texts we have the word Knaanim, which means Canaanites. But in the uncensored versions of the Rambam, it says Notzrim, a clear reference to the Christians. Notzrim, says the Rambam, ovdei kochavim umazalot heim. They are considered to be full-on idol worshippers. Other commentaries have argued with the Rambam that the Trinity belief is not an idol worshipping practice. It's just shituf, partnering Hashem with another deity. However, the Rambam is of the opinion that the Christians are idol worshippers. The Yom Rishon hu Yom Edam. Sunday is their holiday. Even today, although it may not be in such a devout way, but Sunday is the day dedicated to the worship of these religions. Lefichach, says the Rambam, it would turn out in Israel, Asur latet v'laset imahem be'eretz Yisrael. In Israel, it's forbidden to do business with them. Yom Chamishi v'Yom Shishi shebechol Shabbat v'Shabbat. Thursday and Friday of every week. Of course, it would be Thursday, Friday, Shabbos are the 3 days before, but Shabbos, anyways, Jews don't do business. So the only novelty would be Thursday and Friday. Needless to say, Sunday. Which is forbidden everywhere, even outside of Israel, because it's the day of the holiday, and even in the diaspora it's forbidden. Says the Rambam, and similarly, we behave with the Goyim in this way on all of their holidays. The day of the holiday is forbidden everywhere, and in Israel, 3 days before. Halacha hey. What about Yom Shemitkansim Bo Ovdei Kochavim Lahamid Lahem Melech, the day that the idol worshippers gather to crown their king? Umakrivin umekalsim ve'Elohehem, and on these days they offer sacrifices and they praise their gods. Yom Chagamhu, says the Rambam. The ruling is that's considered to be a holiday for halachic legal purposes. V'harehu kish'ar chagehem, and it has the level of any other of the idol worshipping holidays, and we cannot do business on those days or any of the 3 days before in Israel. Aval, however, says the Rambam, what about an individual holiday? Oved kochavim, if you have an idol worshipper, she'osehu chag le'atzmo, which makes a holiday for himself. Umodela kochav shelo umekalso, and on this day he praises his star, he gives thanks to his God, and it becomes his own personal celebration. For example, bayom shenoladbo, the day he was born, a birthday. V'yom tiglachat zikano o blorito, or the day when he shaves his beard or his hair. Blorito is a reference to a specific type of haircut that the goyim would take. Some say it's a reference to where you shave your entire head bald and leave just a little bunch in the back with a ponytail. Some say it's a reference to a lot of hair over here and less hair in the back. Either way, on the day where a goy might do such a haircut, and it would cause him to celebrate, v'yom sha'alabo min hayam, or the day which he ascends from the sea after a long voyage by boat, v'sheyatza mi beit ha'asurim, or the day he leaves jail, v'yom sha'asabo mishtel ibno, or a day which he makes a feast for his son, a wedding celebration, v'chayotzei ba'elu, and anything similar. Eino asur ela oto hayom ve'oto ha'ish bilvad. The only thing which is forbidden is that man and that day. Even in Israel, there's no 3 days before prohibition. It's not a communal thing, it's an individual thing, and for that not idol worshiper, you wouldn't do business with him on that day. Similarly, says the Rambam, Yom sheyamut lahen bo met, a day on which somebody might die. V'yasuhu chag, and they would make it into a celebration for the idol. Otam ha'osim asurin oto hayom, those who practice this holiday, are forbidden to do business with them on that day. Says the Rambam, I can give you a sign, a telltale sign that there's a death that involves idol worship. The chol mita, any death, shesorfin ba kelim umekatrim ketoret, where they burn articles and they bring incense. Biyadua sheyesh ba avodat kochavim, you can be certain that there is idol worship going on over there. These were 2 telltale rituals that signified that over here is going on an idol worshipping ceremony. En yom hachag asur, the Rambam continues, even the holidays which are forbidden are only forbidden ela le'ovdeha bilvad, only to those who directly serve the idols. Avalotam shesmichim bo, but any other Gentiles who join the party, join the bandwagon, they're just rejoicing. Ve'ochlin v'shotin, they eat and drink on these days. Umeshamrin oto, and they keep it mipnei minhag, just because of a custom, or mipnei kvod hamelech, or to honor the king. They're not doing it out of devout religious faith. Aval hem ein modin bo, they themselves, if you would ask them, they say, we don't actually agree to the philosophy of this idol. We're just doing it because everyone's having a party. It's everyone's day off, it's our day off too. So with these people, it's actually permitted to conduct business dealings even on the day of the holiday. And now, halacha vav, we move on to other things when it comes to trading or selling with idol worshippers that are not related to specific holidays, they apply year-round. Halacha vav, dvarim shehin miyuchadin, things that are specifically designated, limin miminei avodat kochavim shebeoto makom, to any given type of idol in that locale. Everybody knows oranges are used in sacrifices to this idol. Garlic is used in sacrifices to this idol. Asur limkor leovdei ota avodat kochavim shebeoto makom leolam. You cannot sell to those who serve that idol in that place any of those things ever, because they're specifically designed not to be used for anything else, only for idols. Perhaps the example of an orange or garlic wouldn't have been so good because orange or garlic was used for other things as well. But let's say there was a certain type of ball that was used only for this idol. You can never sell that ball to those who serve that idol. Udvarim she'enan miyuchadin la, things that are not designated specifically for the idol, they're used for the idol, but also for other things. Mochrin otam stam, we may sell them if you just do it standardly, without labeling that it's for idol worship. You're just selling it as a sale of anything else you would sell, since other people use it innocently and not for idols, so you're allowed to sell it. But if the idol worshiper across the counter tells you specifically that he's buying this to use for his idol, asur limkarlo, then you cannot sell it to him, ela im kain, unless you first disqualify it, mila hakrivo la'avodat kochavim, from making it allowed to be sacrificed to an idol. For example, there's a famous rule, lefi she'en makrivin chaser la'avodat kochavim. The idol-worshipping Gentiles would never sacrifice anything that was missing part of its body to an idol. So if you're selling an animal, for example, you would cut off a part of it that would make it disqualified for idol worship, and then you can sell it to the idol-worshipping person. Halacha zayin hayum oravin. What if you had a mixture of dvarim hamiyuchadin im dvarim she'in miyuchadin? things that were specifically designed for idol worship, together with things that were not specifically designed for idol worship. Kigon, for example, livona zakah bichlal livona shchora. If you had a mixture of pure frankincense and black frankincense, the pure was used for idols, the black was not necessarily. Says the Rambam, mocher hakol stam. One is allowed to sell the entire mixture as it is, without labeling any specifics. Ve'en choshishin, and we don't have to worry. Shema yelaket hazakah levada la'avodat kochavim. Perhaps the non-Jew will pick out all the pure frankincense for the idol worship. You don't have to worry about that. V'chein kol kayotze bazeh, and everything in similar situations, the law would apply in the same way, that if you have a mixture, you don't have to worry for the picking of the designated object. Halacha chet. This would be quite a fascinating halacha to apply today, but one who understands the context of the relationship between the idol-worshipping Gentiles and the Jews of the times of old can easily understand what we're about to learn. Just like we have a prohibition against selling to idol worshippers, dvarim, anything, which is used to support their hands in the service of idols. So for example, the things we spoke about in Halakha Vav, things that are designated for idol worship, you wouldn't sell to them. So too, we cannot sell them anything which can bring about public harm. Kigon, for example, dubim va'arayot, bears and lions, and the commentaries explain we're referring to wild bears and lions, not domesticated ones. Those are permitted. But bears and lions that could wreak havoc, uklezayin, weapons, ukvalim v'shalshalaot, fetters and chains. Ve'en mashchizin lahem et hazayin, you can't even sharpen their weaponry for them. Why? Because these stuff in the hands of the idol-worshipping Gentiles could actually bring about damage to Jews, and there was a high chance of it in those times. The chol sha'asur l'mochro le'oved kochavim, anything which is forbidden to sell to an idol worshipper, asur l'mochro le'Yisrael hechashud limkor le'oved kochavim, can also not be sold to a Jew who is a little bit fishy and is known to conduct business dealings with idol worshippers, and passing it on to him may very well mean that this object is going to end up in the hands of idol worshippers. So you can't sell it to that Jew either. You also can't sell weaponry, damaging vessels, to a Jew who is known to be a robber. Halakha tet. There's one exception when you are allowed to sell weaponry to idol worshippers, and that is Hayu Yisrael shochnim bein ha'ovdei kochavim. If the Jews were living amongst idol worshippers, the kartula hembrit, and they made a peace treaty with them, whereby the idol worshippers' army would serve to protect also the Jewish community. In that case, mutar limkor klei zayin la'avdei hamelech ugiasotav. It is permitted to sell weaponry to the servants of the king and his troops, not to individuals, but to the troops, to the army. Because they, the idol worshippers, will use these weapons for war im tzarei hamedina, with the enemies of the state, lahatzila, to save it. So it turns out that we are supporting their protection of us, because we are dwelling amongst them. And therefore, that is the one case where it is allowed to sell weaponry to idol worshippers. The next part of the halacha, by many commentaries, is inserted actually into the next halacha, halacha yud, because it's actually a new topic. Ir, says the Rambam, a city, sheyesh ba avodat kochavim, which has an idol in it. Mutar lahalech chutzala, you can only walk outside of the city. Va'asur lihikanes betocha, it is forbidden to enter the city. Haya chutzala avodat kochavim, but if the idol was outside the city, mutar lahalech betocha, it is permitted, of course, to walk inside the city. It doesn't demonstrate any devotion to the idol. Halacha yud, haholech mimakom lemakom, one who travels from place to place. Asur lo la'avor bi'ir sheyesh ba avodat kochavim. He cannot traverse, he cannot pass through on his way any city that has in it a idol. When are these words said? When does this rule apply? If the path that you're traveling specifically passes through this city, there is no other way to cross this path unless you go through the city. Or there is no other way to get to the destination unless you go through this city. Aval, but im yesham derech acheret, if there's another path, so you're only taking this one because you chose to, you didn't have to. V'nikra v'halach bezu, and it happens that you go on this one, so nobody watching you will think you're purposely trying to go and pass by the idol. They know you could have taken the other path. You just took this one, and therefore mutar, it is permitted. Even though the phraseology over here sounds like it's in the event that it happened, what's called b'diavad in halacha, the commentaries say even lechatchila, even initially it is allowed, because again, there's another route, and nobody will associate your walking here with devotion to idols. Halacha Yud Aleph. Asur livnot im ha'ovdei kochavim, it is forbidden to build, together with idol worshippers, kippah, a dome, shema midim ba avodat kochavim, in which we will stand up an idol. So even though it's not the idol itself, it's just the location where the idol is going to be, you can't assist in the construction of that dome. V'im avaru bana, however, if you did transgress and you did build it, scharo mutar. The payment you receive is permitted to derive benefit from it because you didn't build the actual idol. On the other hand, that's just permitted in the event that it happened. Aval, but if you're building something which is secondary even to the dome, 2 steps away from the idol, bonehu lechatchila, you can build initially hatraklin o hechatzer, the hall or the courtyard sheyesh ba otah hakippah, in which that dome will be located, because that's now, like I said, 2 steps away from the idol. That's permitted completely. Halacha yud bet, ir sheyesh ba avodat kochavim. You have a city which has an idol. V'hayu ba, and in the city there were chanuyot mu'utarot v'sheinan mutarot. There was an area of stores. Some stores were adorned with decorations, others were not. Even though you don't know clearly that there's an association between the stores and idol worship, ha-mu'utarot, those stores that have decorations, asur lehanot bahen b'chol ma shebetochan. You cannot derive any benefit from these stores, anything in it. Because the assumption is shebiglal avodat kochavim nitatru, that they were decorated because of the idol that's in this city. V'sheinan mu'utarot, but those stores that are not decorated, mutarot bahana'ah, it is permitted to have pleasure, to benefit from those stores. Chanuyot shel avodat kochavim, says the Rambam, stores belonging to idol worshipping people or idols themselves, asur lisochran, it is forbidden to rent them, even for your own purposes. Avodat kochavim, because by giving the money of the rent to the people that own these stores, you're actually bringing pleasure to the idol. Halacha yud gimel hamocher bayit la'avodat kochavim. If you sell a house to people that are going to be using it for idol worship, damav, the money that you make from this transaction, asurim bahana'ah, are forbidden to derive benefit from them. V'yolichem li'am hamelech, they must be destroyed and brought to the Dead Sea. That's why today we don't sell synagogues, any shul campus, to a church. It becomes very problematic. There's special guidelines. You have to use a special rav who is certified for that and knows all the complex details, because in general you're selling a house straight to idol worship. Aval of kochavim. But what if the sale was not done voluntarily? You have idol worshippers, she'ansu Yisrael, they coerced, they forced a Jew. The gazlu beito, they robbed him of his house. V'ha'amidu bo avodat kochavim, and they stood up a statue of idols in there. And then they paid him off. Don't talk to us anymore, don't sue us, we're giving you money for your property that we robbed. Damav mutarin, the money that comes from that is permitted to benefit from. The kotevu ma'aleh barakaot shalahem, the Rambam goes even so far as to say that one could draw up a document and make it formal by the laws of Gentiles. Typically, we don't use the Gentile legal system. But over here, because they robbed you of your house and you have no other record of it, so you're allowed to write up this document by their standards. Halacha yudaled v'chalilin shalovde kochavim, flutes of idol worshippers, asur lispod bahen, a Jew cannot use them as part of his funeral procession. Apparently in those times, it was common practice to use flutes and to have what we call a dirge at a funeral, where people would play sad songs, etc. You cannot use idol worshipping flutes in this process. Holchin, says the Rambam, we can go liyirid shalovde kochavim, to a market sponsored by idol worshippers. Velokhin mehen, and we can buy from them any real property. Behema, animals, avadim ushfachot begayutan, servants and maidservants in their non-Jewish state, their Gentile state. Ubatim, v'sadot ukramim, houses, fields, and vineyards. The kotev u'ma'aleh barakaot shalahen, and here too we can draw up documents, formalize them by the Gentile standards. Because taking these properties from idol worship possession into Jewish possession is considered saving money from their hands. But when do these words apply? If there's no direct benefit that's being supplied to the idol worshippers. Again, the market was sponsored by idol worshippers, but you're buying from a regular individual guy, in which case, you're not going to give a tax on the stuff that you buy. And there's no direct benefit to the idols. But were you to buy from a business owner, a wholesaler, any of these stuff, asur, it's actually forbidden. Because you're going to end up giving tax on the stuff that you buy. The tax in those days, at least, commentaries note today it doesn't apply, but the tax in those days went directly to the idol worshipping people that were in charge of the idol. You are thereby providing benefit to idol worship. And the law is so extreme that if you transgressed and bought from the wholesaler, you cannot use what you bought. Im behema lakach, if you bought an animal, min asher parsoteha min ha'arkuba ulemata, you must cut off its legs from the ankle bones down so that you completely cancel any potential of using this animal for benefit. V'im ksut v'kelim lakach, if you bought clothing or other articles, yerakvu, they have to be left to rot. Lakach ma'ot uklei matchot, if you bought anything metal, money objects or metal objects, yolichem li'am hamelach, you must bring them to the Dead Sea and dispose of them there. Lakach eved, if you bought a servant, lo ma'alim v'lo moridin. We apply the law that says, if he's in a pit, we don't bring him up. If he's outside a pit, we shouldn't push him in. He's treated as neutral, you leave him be. Halachat tetvav, from now we learn other laws, not business related, about interacting with idol worshippers. Oved kochavim she'asa livno o libito mishteh, an idol worshipper who made a feast. Seems like a wedding feast for his son or daughter. Asur lehanot miseudato. One Jew, one may not have pleasure from this meal. Va'afilu le'echol v'lishtot ha'Yisrael mishalo sham. Even for a Jew to bring his own food and drink and to eat there would be asur, is forbidden. Ho'il uvimisibat of de kochavim achalo, because he ate it in the presence, in the company, at the party of idol worship. Ume'ei matai asur le'echol etzlo. It's not just the wedding, the actual feast that is prohibited to eat at. Rather, from when does the prohibition begin to eat together with this idol worshipper? Mishayatchil la'asok ulahachin sarchei suuda. From the moment he begins to deal with the preparations for the meal. And of course, v'chol yemei hamishteh, all the days of celebration, and even after, ula'achar yemei hamishteh shloshim yom, 30 days after the days of feasting. And there's some cases where it goes even longer. If the idol worshipper were to make a meal, and he labels it clearly, post-wedding party, even if it's after 30 days from the celebration, asur, it's forbidden, ad shneim asar chodesh, till 12 months after the original party. The Chol HaHarchaka Azot, says the Rambam, this entire distance, this distancing measure, where we don't allow Jews and idol worshippers to mingle, is mipnei avodah shel kochavim, who is because we want to stay away as far as possible from idol worship. Shenemar, as it says in the Torah, the idol worshipper will call you and you will eat from his food. What's the natural result of that? Families get close. You will take from his daughters for your sons, v'zanu v'gomer, and they will go astray, as the Torah concludes the verse. Halachat Zayin, Bat Yisrael, a Jewish woman, lo teinik et bena shalovedet kochavim, should not be a wet nurse for the son of an idol worshipping woman. Because by nurturing this baby, by nursing it, migadelet ben la'avodat kochavim, you're literally raising a son to idol worship. V'lo tiyaled et hanochrit akum, neither should a Jewish woman be a midwife for a birthing idol worshipping woman. Aval, however, miyaledeti bischar mishum eva. If there's animosity concerns, then she can serve as a midwife, but only for pay, not for free. On the other side, an idol-worshipping woman, miyaledet at Bas Yisrael, we allow her to serve as a midwife. For a Jewish woman, uminikayet bena, we also allow her to serve as a nurse for the son, birshuta, on her premises, in the control of the Jewish environment, kedei shalot harganu, so that the idol-worshipping woman not kill the Jewish baby. There was a real threat to Jewish lives in that time. And so while we allowed them to come into our environment, we had to be in full control, so they shouldn't do anything questionable. Famously, the Rama, Rabbi Moshe Isserlis, in his glosses to the Shulchan Aruch, writes that although it's permitted to allow a non-Jewish woman to nurse a Jewish child, we should stay away from that, because the milk of a non-Jewish woman can bring undesirable traits in Jewish babies. Halacha Yud Zayin, haholchin letarput akum. Anybody who goes to the immoral places of the idol-worshipping people. It's not a reference necessarily to immoral places. The commentaries say, the sages use the derogatory term about any place where idol worshippers are conducting dealings. So if you're going there, if we see a non-Jew on the way to this idol-worshipping market, asur laset v'latet imahen. On their way, we may not do business with them. However, v'habaim mutarim. When they're on their way back, it's permitted. And we're going to see the reason for this in a moment, is because any money that they might have made in the market, money that comes from an idol in the hands of an idol worshiper, is not forbidden to derive benefit. It's only when it's in the hands of a Jew. So we're going to see that for a Jew, it's the opposite. On his way back, it's forbidden to derive benefit from it. The reason why on the way there it's forbidden for a non-Jew is because we're worried that any money that they make now is going to allow them to bring more to the idols. So for the non-Jews, on their way there, forbidden, on the way back, permitted. V'hu, shalo yiyu kshurin zavazah. One exception, that they're not in a caravan, they're not tied to one another, they're not in a big group. She'im hayu kshurin, if they were in a big group, shema datan lachzor, perhaps their intention is to return back to the idol-worshipping market, and you don't want to help to support that. Yisrael, if it's a Jew, haholech letarput akum, on his way to the immoral places of the idol worshippers, bahalicha, on the way there, mutar, laset, latetimo, give him the benefit of the doubt, do business with him, shamaya chazarbo, perhaps he will retract his mind, change his mind, and not go to the idol worshipping place. Uba chazira, but on his way back, he's participated, now he may have money coming from idols, asur, money from idols is forbidden to derive benefit from a Jew, and therefore it's forbidden to do business with him. Yisrael mumar, if he's a well-known apostate Jew, a heretic, then even ben bahalicha, ben bachazira, both on the way there and on the way back, asur, it's forbidden. We place upon the apostate Jew the chumrot, the stringencies, both of being an idol worshipper and of being a Jew. Halacha yudchet, Yisrael shehalach liyarid shalakum. If a Jew went to the market of idol worshippers, bachazira, asur lased v'latetimo. On his way back, it is forbidden to do business with him. Shema akum machar lahen sham. Perhaps an idol worshipper sold him some things there. Udmei akum biyad Yisrael asurin bahana. And the money of idol worship in the hands of a Jew is forbidden for benefit. Ubiyad akum, were the money to be in the hands of an idol worshipper himself, mutarin bahana. It's permitted to derive pleasure. And therefore the Rambam says this becomes the rationale for the previous halacha. Because of this principle, nos'in v'notnin im akum. Haba min hatarput shalakum. We can do business with an idol worshipper who's on his way back from the immoral places of idol worship. Ve'ein nos'in v'notnin im Yisrael haba min hatarputahu. And we cannot do business with a Jew who's on his way back from the immoral place because he may have the money which is forbidden to derive benefit. For this same reason, we cannot do business with an apostate Jew, lo bahalichato, lo bachazirato, not on his way there and on his way back, because we apply the stringencies of both sides. He's considered an idol worshiper for the way there and a Jew for the way back.